Have you ever noticed how the mind can turn a memory into a chain? How a single person, a single moment, a single loss can become the thing that defines every thought, every choice, every waking hour. Some people carry weights that no one else can see. They smile, they function, they exist in the world, but beneath the surface, they are prisoners. Prisoners of something that ended long ago, yet somehow never stops demanding their attention. This is not about nostalgia. This is not about healthy remembrance or honoring what once mattered. This is about the quiet destruction that happens when someone cannot release their grip on what is already gone. If you find yourself returning to the same thoughts, the same person, the same situation over and over, despite knowing it serves no purpose, this is for you. If this exploration into the psychology of attachment speaks to you, feel free to subscribe. Let's begin. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning, replaying a conversation that happened months ago, rewriting your responses, imagining different outcomes? Have you checked your phone for a message you know will never come? Felt your chest tighten when you see their name somewhere, anywhere, even in passing? Perhaps you've walked through your days feeling like you're only half present, because the other half of you is still back there, in that moment when everything fell apart. Maybe you've tried to move forward, convinced yourself you were fine, only to find that a song, a scent, a random Tuesday afternoon drags you right back into the pain you thought you'd escaped. And the worst part? You might have started to believe that this is just who you are now, that this weight you carry is permanent, that letting go is something other people do, people who didn't love as hard, who didn't invest as much, who didn't care the way you did. But what if I told you something that might shatter everything you believe about your own strength? What if holding on, this thing you've convinced yourself is loyalty, is love, is proof of your depth, is actually the most profound act of self-betrayal you could commit? What if the very thing you think makes you devoted is the thing that's keeping you weak, small, and trapped in a version of yourself that was never meant to survive this long? The world has taught you that persistence is noble, that real love never gives up, that walking away is what cowards do when things get hard. Society wraps this narrative in beautiful language. It calls it faithfulness, dedication, the refusal to abandon what matters. But nobody tells you about the other side of that story. Nobody tells you that there's a difference between fighting for something that's alive and performing CPR on something that's been dead for months, maybe years. Nobody tells you that the person who can't let go isn't strong. They're terrified. Terrified of the emptiness that comes after. Terrified of admitting that all that time, all that energy, all those sleepless nights were spent on something that will never return what you gave it. This is not about them anymore. It stopped being about them the moment they moved on, the moment the situation ended, the moment reality made it clear that this chapter was closed. This is about you, about the part of you that would rather suffer in familiar pain than face the unknown freedom of release. About the part of you that has confused endurance with strength and attachment with love. You are not holding on because what you had was so extraordinary that it deserves eternal devotion. You are holding on because letting go requires you to confront something far more terrifying than loss. It requires you to face the question you've been avoiding. Who am I without this? The ego is a master of disguise. It wraps fear in the language of virtue, turns cowardice into commitment, and convinces you that your refusal to move forward is actually a sign of how deeply you feel. But strip away the poetry, the justifications, the stories you tell yourself at night, and what remains is brutally simple. You are holding on because you are terrified of what happens when you stop. This has nothing to do with them. It never did. It has everything to do with the fact that your ego has staked its entire identity on this one thing, this one person, this one outcome, and admitting it's over means admitting you were wrong. That you invested in something that didn't work, that you read the signs incorrectly, that you gave your heart to someone who either didn't want it or couldn't keep it safe. And the ego cannot tolerate being wrong. It would rather keep you in perpetual suffering than admit defeat, because defeat feels like annihilation. So it creates an elaborate fiction that you're holding on out of love, out of hope, out of loyalty. But love doesn't chain you to what destroys you. Love doesn't keep you awake at night analyzing text messages from 6 months ago. Love doesn't turn you into a detective of breadcrumbs, searching for hidden meanings in words that were probably meaningless to begin with. What you're experiencing isn't love. It's the ego's desperate attempt to maintain the illusion that you still have control over a situation that ended the moment you started needing it to be different than it is. This is what psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy, but it goes deeper than economics or decision-making theory. This is the sunk cost fallacy of the soul. You have poured so much time, so much emotional energy, so many tears and sleepless nights into this person or situation that walking away now feels like admitting that all of it was wasted. So you stay. Not because staying serves you, but because leaving would require you to accept the loss. And accepting the loss means grieving not just what you had, but what you'll never have. The future you imagined. The version of yourself you thought you'd become with them beside you. The story you told everyone, including yourself, about how this was different, how this was special, how this was worth fighting for. But here's the truth. Your ego doesn't want you to see. Every single day you spend holding on is a day you're choosing familiar suffering over uncertain freedom. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not powerless in the face of your feelings. You are actively, continuously, moment by moment, selecting this pain. You are feeding it, nurturing it, giving it space in your mind where it grows like a weed, choking out everything else that could bloom there. And why? Because the known hell feels safer than the unknown heaven. Because your identity has become so entangled with this attachment that you genuinely don't know who you'd be without it. This is what herd morality does to people. It teaches you that quitting is shameful, that persistence is always virtuous, that real strength means never giving up. But strength isn't measured by how long you can endure unnecessary pain. Strength is measured by your willingness to face the truth and act accordingly, even when the truth devastates you. Even when acting accordingly means walking away from the only thing that's made sense to you for months or years. The person who cannot let go isn't demonstrating devotion, they're demonstrating fear. Fear of the void, fear of starting over, fear of discovering that maybe, just maybe, they're strong enough to survive without the very thing they thought they needed to breathe. There is something your mind is hiding from you, something it doesn't want you to see. Every time you think about them, every time you replay that memory, every time you check if they viewed your story or liked your post, you believe you're holding on because you still care. But that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is much darker, much more human, and much harder to admit. You are holding on because letting go means facing the grief. And grief is the one thing your mind will do anything to avoid. As long as you haven't fully let go, as long as you keep that door open, just a crack, you can still tell yourself a story. You can still imagine the reconciliation, the apology, the moment when everything clicks back into place and all this pain suddenly makes sense. You can still live in the fantasy of what could be instead of accepting what is. And fantasies, no matter how painful, feel safer than reality. Because in fantasy, you still have hope. In reality, you have loss. And loss is final. Loss is a door that closes and locks behind you. Loss is the end of the story you wanted to tell. This is why holding on isn't really about them at all. It's about you refusing to attend the funeral. The relationship died, the friendship ended, the job is over, the dream collapsed. But you haven't accepted it yet. You're standing in the cemetery insisting the body will wake up if you just wait long enough, if you just believe hard enough, if you just prove yourself worthy enough. You've turned grief into a waiting room, and you've been sitting there so long you've forgotten what you were waiting for in the first place. Psychologists call this complicated grief, but that term doesn't capture the full weight of what's happening inside you. This is grief that refuses to move, grief that has set up camp in your chest and built walls around itself, grief that has convinced you it's actually hope, actually love, actually something noble instead of what it truly is: avoidance. Because real grief is terrifying. Real grief means accepting that you will never get what you wanted from this person or this situation. Real grief means feeling the full weight of the loss without any fantasy to cushion the fall. Real grief means crying until you can't cry anymore, screaming into pillows, waking up and remembering all over again that it's over. And your mind looks at that process and says, no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We're going to hold on instead. We're going to keep hoping. We're going to stay in limbo where at least we don't have to feel the full truth. But here's what your mind doesn't tell you. Limbo isn't neutral. Limbo isn't safe. Limbo is its own kind of death, just slower, quieter, more socially acceptable. While you're waiting for them to change their mind, for the situation to improve, for the universe to give you what you think you deserve, your actual life is passing you by. Every day you spend in this in-between space is a day you're not fully alive. You're not present with the people who actually want to be around you. You're not open to opportunities that could change everything. You're not building the future you could have because you're too busy mourning the future you lost. And the cruelest part? The person you're holding on to has already let go. They've moved on. They're living their life. They're not lying awake thinking about you. They're not checking your profile. They're not wondering what could have been. You are grieving alone for something they buried months ago. But why does it feel impossible to stop? Why can't you simply decide to move on and have your body, your heart, your mind obey that decision? The answer lies not in your character or your willpower, but in the architecture of your brain itself. What you're experiencing isn't weakness, it's neuroscience. And understanding this changes everything, because it reveals both why you're trapped and how you can finally break free. When you formed that attachment, whether to a person, a relationship, or even an idea of how your life was supposed to unfold, your brain built highways. Neural pathways that connected their face, their voice, their presence to your reward system. Every time you were with them, every time they gave you attention, every time you felt that spark of connection, your brain released dopamine. The same chemical that fires when someone takes drugs, when a gambler wins, when an addict gets their fix. Your brain learned that this person equals pleasure, equals safety, equals survival. And once that pathway is built, it doesn't disappear just because the relationship ends. It stays there, firing randomly, demanding to be fed, creating cravings that feel as real and as urgent as hunger or thirst. This is why you can't stop checking their social media, why you can't stop hoping they'll text, why every notification makes your heart race, thinking it might be them. Your brain has confused this person with a need. It's treating their absence the way it would treat the absence of food or water, as if you are literally dying without them. And in a very real neurological sense, the withdrawal you feel when you try to let go is identical to the withdrawal an addict feels when they quit their substance. The anxiety, the obsessive thoughts, the physical ache in your chest, these aren't metaphors. These are your brain screaming because you've taken away something it believes you need to survive. And here's where it gets even more complicated. If the relationship was inconsistent, if they were hot and cold, available and then distant, kind and then cruel, your brain learned an even more addictive pattern. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful conditioning mechanism that exists. It's why gambling is so addictive, why people stay in toxic relationships for years. Because when the reward is unpredictable, when you never know if this time will be the time they finally love you back, finally choose you, finally become who you needed them to be, your brain becomes obsessed with solving the puzzle. It pours all its energy into figuring out what you need to do, how you need to change, what you need to prove to finally get consistent love from an inconsistent source. Every small moment of kindness from them after a period of coldness hits your brain like a drug after withdrawal. The relief is so intense that it overrides all the pain that came before it. Your brain remembers that high, that relief, that moment when they smiled at you again, texted you back, acted like they cared. And it forgets everything else. It forgets the days of silence, the nights of crying, the constant anxiety. All it remembers is that sometimes, if you wait long enough, if you try hard enough, you get a hit of that feeling you've been craving. So you stay. Not because you're weak, but because your brain has been wired to believe that staying is the only way to eventually feel okay again. But your brain is lying to you. It cannot tell the difference between what you need and what you're used to. It has confused familiarity with necessity, pattern with purpose, addiction with love. But why does it feel impossible to stop? Why can't you simply decide to move on and have your body, your heart, your mind obey that decision? The answer lies not in your character or your willpower, but in the architecture of your brain itself. What you're experiencing isn't weakness, it's neuroscience. And understanding this changes everything, because it reveals both why you're trapped and how you can finally break free. When you formed that attachment, whether to a person, a relationship, or even an idea of how your life was supposed to unfold, your brain built highways, neural pathways that connected their face, their voice, their presence to your reward system. Every time you were with them, every time they gave you attention, every time you felt that spark of connection, your brain released dopamine. The same chemical that fires when someone takes drugs, when a gambler wins, when an addict gets their fix. Your brain learned that this person equals pleasure, equals safety, equals survival. And once that pathway is built, it doesn't disappear just because the relationship ends. It stays there, firing randomly, demanding to be fed, creating cravings that feel as real and as urgent as hunger or thirst. This is why you can't stop checking their social media, why you can't stop hoping they'll text, why every notification makes your heart race, thinking it might be them. Your brain has confused this person with a need. It's treating their absence the way it would treat the absence of food or water, as if you are literally dying without them. And in a very real neurological sense, the withdrawal you feel when you try to let go is identical to the withdrawal an addict feels when they quit their substance. The anxiety, the obsessive thoughts, the physical ache in your chest, these aren't metaphors. These are your brain screaming because you've taken away something it believes you need to survive. And here's where it gets even more complicated. If the relationship was inconsistent, if they were hot and cold, available and then distant, kind and then cruel, your brain learned an even more addictive pattern. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful conditioning mechanism that exists. It's why gambling is so addictive, why people stay in toxic relationships for years. Because when the reward is unpredictable, when you never know if this time will be the time they finally love you back, finally choose you, finally become who you needed them to be, your brain becomes obsessed with solving the puzzle. It pours all its energy into figuring out what you need to do, how you need to change, what you need to prove to finally get consistent love from an inconsistent source. Every small moment of kindness from them after a period of coldness hits your brain like a drug after withdrawal. The relief is so intense that it overrides all the pain that came before it. Your brain remembers that high, that relief, that moment when they smiled at you again, texted you back, acted like they cared, and it forgets everything else. It forgets the days of silence, the nights of crying, the constant anxiety. All it remembers is that sometimes, if you wait long enough, if you try hard enough, you get a hit of that feeling you've been craving. So you stay. Not because you're weak, but because your brain has been wired to believe that staying is the only way to eventually feel okay again. But your brain is lying to you. It cannot tell the difference between what you need and what you're used to. It has confused familiarity with necessity, pattern with purpose, addiction with love. So let's talk about what this is actually costing you. Not in abstract terms, not in someday consequences, but right now, today, this very moment. Because while you've been holding on, while you've been waiting, while you've been replaying the past and imagining different futures, your real life has been happening without you. And you're losing more than you realize. Look at your days honestly. How many hours have you spent thinking about them when you could have been creating something, learning something, becoming someone new? How many conversations have you had where you were physically present but mentally absent, still turning over that last interaction, still analyzing what you should have said, still wondering what they're doing right now? How many opportunities have passed you by because you weren't available, not because you were busy, but because your mind was occupied by someone who isn't even thinking about you? Every moment you spend trapped in this loop is a moment stolen from your actual existence. And you're the one doing the stealing. Your work has suffered, even if you won't admit it. You're distracted, unfocused, going through motions instead of engaging fully. Your other relationships have withered because you have nothing left to give them. Your friends have stopped asking what's wrong because they already know, and they're tired of hearing the same story with no ending. Your family sees the distance in your eyes and doesn't know how to reach you anymore. You've become a shell, a ghost, someone who looks like you but isn't really there. And the saddest part is that you've convinced yourself this is temporary, that once they come back, once things work out, once you finally get closure, then you'll return to yourself. But that version of events isn't coming, and while you wait for it, the you that could exist right now, the you that could be thriving, growing, living fully, that person is dying of neglect. Think about what you've said no to because you were holding space for someone who doesn't want the space. The dates you've declined because nobody compares to them, even though they've moved on. The trips you haven't taken because you needed to be available in case they reached out. The dreams you've put on hold because you were too emotionally exhausted to pursue them. The opportunities that came and went while you were staring at your phone, waiting for their name to appear. You've made yourself unavailable to your own life. You've chosen to be a prisoner when the cell door has been open this entire time. And here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to say out loud. While you're doing this, while you're sacrificing your present for a past that's dead and a future that isn't coming, they're living. They're going to parties, meeting new people, falling asleep without thinking about you, waking up without your name being their first thought. They're not losing sleep. They're not analyzing old text messages. They're not building shrines to what you had. They're fine. They're more than fine. They're free. And you've made yourself their captive without them even asking you to. You're volunteering for a prison sentence while the person you're serving it for doesn't even remember putting you there. Look at yourself from the outside for just one moment. Be honest about what you've become. You're the person others pity. The one they worry about, the one they don't know how to help anymore because you won't help yourself. You've become a cautionary tale, a warning story about what happens when someone can't let go. So, how do you actually do it? How do you release your grip when everything in you is screaming to hold tighter? This isn't about positive thinking or pretending you don't care. This isn't about finding closure from them or getting the conversation that finally makes it all make sense. This is about understanding that letting go is not a feeling you wait to have. It's a decision you make and then make again, and then make 1,000 times more until your brain finally accepts that you mean it. The first weapon in your arsenal is the ceremony of closure. Your mind needs an ending, and if they didn't give you one, you have to create it yourself. This means writing the letter you'll never send. Not the angry one, not the begging one, but the honest one. The one where you say everything you needed to say, where you release every word that's been sitting in your throat, where you give yourself permission to feel it all without needing them to witness it or validate it. And then you destroy it. You burn it, delete it, tear it into pieces so small they disappear. This isn't metaphor. This is ritual. Your brain understands symbols better than it understands logic. Give it a physical act that represents the end, and something inside you will finally start to believe it's over. The second weapon is the redirection of energy. Every time the obsessive thought comes, and it will come dozens of times a day at first, you have exactly 3 seconds before your brain completes the neural pathway and you're lost in the loop again. In those 3 seconds, you move your body. You stand up, you walk to another room, you do 10 push-ups, you call a friend, you put on a song, and force yourself to sing along. The thought isn't the enemy, the thought is automatic. The enemy is what you do after the thought arrives. If you sit with it, analyze it, follow it down the rabbit hole, you're feeding the addiction. But if you interrupt it, redirect it, refuse to give it your full attention, you're slowly, painfully, starving the neural pathway until it weakens. The third weapon is speaking the truth out loud until it becomes real. Every single day, you say it. To yourself in the mirror, in your journal, to a friend who will hold you accountable. You say, "It's over, and I'm choosing to accept that." Not because you want it to be over, not because you think it should be over, but because it is over, and denying reality doesn't change reality. It only keeps you trapped in a fantasy. This daily practice of naming what's true rewires your brain slowly, gradually teaching it to stop searching for alternate endings and start accepting the one that already happened. The fourth weapon is building a vision of who you're becoming that's more compelling than the past you're clinging to. You cannot release something until you have something to reach toward. So you imagine yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, having let go. What does that person look like? How do they carry themselves? What are they doing with their time, their energy, their heart? You hold that image with the same intensity you've been holding the memory of them. You let your future self pull you forward when the past tries to drag you back. And the fifth weapon, the most important one, is severing contact completely. Not reducing it, not checking in occasionally, not keeping tabs from a distance. Complete severance. Every contact, every glance at their profile, every accidentally on purpose run-in resets your healing to 0. It tells your brain that the source of dopamine is still accessible, still possible, still worth pursuing. And your brain will take that information and use it to justify waiting longer, hoping harder, suffering more. The absence of them's the medicine. Their complete removal from your daily awareness is what allows the neural pathways to finally begin to fade. You don't block them out of anger or spite, you block them out of self-preservation. You remove every photo, every reminder, every connection, because you're choosing your future over your past. And that choice, made daily, eventually becomes who you are. But there's one final truth, the hardest one, the one that changes everything if you can accept it. What if this entire experience was never really about them at all? What if your inability to let go has been trying to teach you something about yourself that you've been refusing to see? Because the people and situations we can't release are always mirrors. They're showing us something we haven't healed, something we haven't accepted, something we're still trying to get from the outside world that can only come from within. Maybe you're holding on because they made you feel worthy, and without them you don't know how to feel that on your own. Maybe you're holding on because this relationship was supposed to prove something, supposed to fix something from your past, supposed to validate that you're lovable after all. Maybe you're holding on because letting go means facing the deeper wound underneath, the one that existed long before they arrived and will still be there after they're gone. The wound that says you're not enough, that you're not deserving, that you have to earn love instead of simply receiving it. This attachment was never the problem, it was the symptom. And until you address what it's been protecting you from seeing, you'll just find another person, another situation, another thing you can't let go of. Because the pattern isn't about them. It's about you and the relationship you have with yourself, with worthiness, with the terror of being alone with who you actually are underneath all the performance and the hoping and the waiting. So here's your permission. The permission you've been waiting for someone else to give you, but that can only come from within. You are allowed to let go of what's hurting you, even if you still love it. You are allowed to close the chapter, even if the story feels unfinished. You are allowed to walk away, even if no one else understands why. You are allowed to choose yourself, your peace, your future over the comfortable familiarity of this pain. You are allowed to grieve what you lost and still decide that you're worth more than spending your life mourning it. The weak cling to what destroys them because the known pain feels safer than the unknown freedom. The strong endure the grief of letting go because they understand that temporary agony is the price of permanent peace. The wise recognize that some chapters end badly, some stories don't have the ending you wanted, and some people leave footprints on your heart that never fully fade. And that's okay. The wisdom isn't in pretending it didn't matter. The wisdom is in accepting that it mattered deeply, and it's still over, and you're going to survive it anyway. If you've decided to choose yourself over the comfort of familiar suffering, comment below. I am learning to let go. Say it publicly. Make it real. Let those words be the first step toward the person you're becoming. And if you want to continue this journey of understanding the psychology that shapes us, subscribe. The next video will show you what exists in the space after release. The void you've been afraid of that's actually where your life begins. Until then, be gentle with yourself.